He understood this. He understood that there's a kind of emptiness that exists beyond language, beyond simple explanations. An emptiness that isn't about lacking something external. It's deeper than that, more fundamental. And tonight, we're going to explore it together, not to fix it, but to understand it, to see what it might be trying to tell you. As you lie here now, as you let yourself settle into the darkness, I want you to just notice. Notice if there's a feeling of emptiness somewhere inside you. Maybe it's been there so long you've gotten used to it. Maybe you don't even think about it anymore unless someone asks you how you're doing and you have to pause before saying fine. But it's there, isn't it? That sense that something's missing. That feeling of going through your life, but not really being present in it. Like you're watching from behind glass or living one step removed from your own experience. And the strange thing, the confusing thing, is that you can't point to what's missing. You can't say, oh, if I just had this thing or achieved that goal or met the right person, then I'd feel whole. Because it's not. It's not that kind of emptiness. It's not a hole that can be filled with external things. You might have everything, or at least, you might have enough. A life that, from the outside, looks fine, maybe even good. And yet, there's this void, this sense of something fundamental being absent. And when you try to explain it to anyone, when you try to say what you're feeling, the words they don't capture it. How do you explain to someone that you feel empty when you can't even tell them what's supposed to be there instead? How do you describe a void, an absence, a nothing that somehow feels like everything? This is what Jung spent years trying to understand. This peculiar kind of emptiness that so many people feel but can't articulate. This existential void that isn't solved by therapy or medication or positive thinking or any of the usual solutions people suggest. Because this emptiness, it's not a symptom of something wrong with your brain chemistry. It's not. It's not because you're ungrateful or pessimistic or not trying hard enough. It's something else entirely. Something that Jung believed was actually meaningful, important even. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just start by acknowledging what this feels like. Because maybe if we can name it, if we can see it clearly, it won't feel quite so isolating. You won't feel quite so alone in it. So what is it? This emptiness. What does it actually feel like for you? For some people, it's like there's a hollow space inside their chest, right in the center, where something should be but isn't. Like a room that's supposed to be furnished, but it's just empty, echoing, cold. For others, it feels more like numbness, like all your feelings have been muted somehow, turned down. So you go through your days, and things happen. Good things, bad things. And you register them intellectually, but you don't really feel them. Not the way you think you should. Not the way other people seem to. Or maybe for you, it's more like disconnection. Like you're here, but you're not here. Like there's a barrier, a wall, between you and your life, between you and other people, between you and your own experience. You watch yourself living, but you're not. observing from somewhere else. Some people describe it as a longing, a persistent sense that something's missing, but they can't identify what. They keep thinking, maybe if I move to a new city, or maybe if I change careers, or maybe if I find the right relationship, then this emptiness will finally go away. But it doesn't. It never does. Because whatever they're longing for, it's not something that exists outside themselves. Or perhaps it feels like heaviness to you. A weight. Like you're carrying something that makes everything harder. Every task requires more effort than it should. Even simple things. Even getting out of bed or having a conversation or just existing feels like it takes energy you don't have. And you can't explain why. There's no specific reason. It's just there. And then there's the question that haunts you. The one you ask yourself in quiet moments. Is this all there is? Is this it? You look at your life and you think, this should be enough. I should be happy. I should feel something, but you don't. You just feel empty. Just notice right now, as you lie here in the quiet, which of these resonates? Or maybe your emptiness has a completely different quality. Maybe it's something I haven't described. That's okay. There's no right way to experience this, no standard version of the void. What matters is that it's real, that you're feeling it, and that you've probably been feeling it for longer than you want to admit. Months, years, maybe your whole adult life. This persistent sense that something fundamental is absent, and you've been trying to understand it, trying to fix it, trying to make sense of it, and getting nowhere. And that makes it worse, doesn't it? Not only do you feel empty, but you feel like you're failing at understanding your own experience, failing at being able to explain to yourself or anyone else what's actually wrong. Because when people ask how you are, what do you say? You can't very well say, I feel empty, but I don't know why, and I can't explain it, and nothing seems to help. So you say fine. You say good. You say the things people expect to hear, and the gap between what you say and what you feel, that gap just makes the emptiness feel even more isolating. You start to wonder, am I the only one? Is everyone else actually okay? Actually present in their lives? Actually feeling things fully? Or are they also just going through the motions? Pretending? Carrying their own private emptiness that they also can't explain? Jung would tell you that you're not alone. That this kind of existential emptiness, it's more common than you think. But people don't talk about it. They don't know how to. They don't have the language for it. And so everyone carries it privately, alone, thinking they're the only one. And the suggestions people make when you try to explain it. God. The suggestions. Have you tried gratitude journaling? Maybe you need to exercise more. Have you considered therapy? What are you passionate about? You should travel. You should meditate. You should find your purpose. And you want to scream. I've tried all of that. Don't you think I've tried? But you don't scream. You just nod. You say, yeah, maybe. You pretend their suggestions might help, even though you know they won't. Because they're addressing the wrong thing. They're trying to fill the emptiness from the outside. But the emptiness, It's not that kind of problem. This is what Jung understood. He understood that there's a kind of void that exists at the existential level, at the level of meaning and purpose and connection to something larger than yourself. And this kind of emptiness, it can't be solved with productivity hacks or self-help strategies or any external fix, because what you're experiencing, it's not really emptiness. I mean, I know it feels like emptiness, like nothing, like an absence. But Jung would say it's actually full of potential, full of meaning you haven't accessed yet, full of something your psyche is trying to tell you. The void isn't empty, it just feels that way, because you don't yet know how to read it, how to understand what it's communicating, what it's pointing you toward. But we're going to learn over the course of tonight. As you drift towards sleep, we're going to explore what this emptiness might mean, what it might be trying to show you, what Jung discovered about the nature of the void, and why it's not your enemy, even though it feels unbearable sometimes. For now, just breathe. Just let yourself be here with the emptiness. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to fill it. Don't try to explain it. Just acknowledge it. Yes, there's emptiness here. I feel it. I don't understand it, but it's here. That's enough for right now. Just that acknowledgement. Just the willingness to stop running from it long enough to actually be with it, to feel it without immediately trying to make it go away. Let your body relax. Let the bed hold you. Let yourself sink deeper into the quiet, and as you do, just notice the emptiness. Where does it live in your body? Is it in your chest? Your stomach? Is it more diffuse? Everywhere and nowhere. Don't analyze it. Don't try to understand it yet. Just notice it. Feel it. Let it be there. Because here's something Jung understood that most people miss. The emptiness. The void. It's not the problem. The problem is how we relate to it. How we fight it. How we try to fill it with anything we can find. How we make it wrong. How we make ourselves wrong for feeling it. But what if the emptiness is actually a doorway? What if it's trying to show you something? What if it's the psyche's way of saying, something needs attention here. Something needs to shift. Something is calling you toward a different way of being? That's what we're going to explore. But not by forcing it, not by trying to figure it out intellectually, but by being with it, by listening to it, by giving it space to reveal what it actually is, instead of what we think it should be. Jung believed the psyche has its own intelligence, its own way of communicating, and that when something like emptiness arises, when the void makes itself known, it's not random, it's not meaningless. It's the psyche trying to get your attention, trying to redirect you, trying to show you something you've been missing. But the psyche doesn't speak in clear sentences. It speaks in feelings, in symbols, in experiences that exist beyond rational understanding. And the emptiness, it's one of those communications. It's the psyche saying something important in the only language it knows. And I know that's frustrating. Because you want answers. You want someone to tell you exactly what the emptiness means and exactly what to do about it. You want a clear path, a solution, a way to make it stop. But it doesn't work like that. The psyche doesn't give instruction manuals. It gives you the experience, the feeling, the emptiness itself. And then it asks you to to be curious, to explore, to see where it leads without knowing in advance where that will be. This is uncomfortable. This not knowing. This sitting with something you can't explain or fix. This is why most people turn away. Why they distract themselves. Why they fill their lives with busyness and noise and anything that keeps them from having to feel the void. But you're here. You're not turning away. You're willing to sit with this, to be with the emptiness instead of running from it. And that takes more courage than you probably realize. Because it would be so much easier to just turn on a show or scroll your phone or fill your mind with anything else. But you're choosing to be here, to feel this, to explore it. And Jung would say, that choice, that willingness, that's already the beginning of transformation. Not transformation in the sense that the emptiness will suddenly disappear, but transformation in the sense that your relationship to it can change. That you can move from fighting it to being curious about it. From making it wrong to seeing it as meaningful. From feeling victimized by it to recognizing it as a message. And as that relationship shifts, as you stop resisting the emptiness and start listening to it, something changes. Not all at once, but gradually, over time, the void starts to feel less like an enemy and more like a teacher, a guide, something that's actually trying to help you, even though it doesn't feel that way. But we're not there yet. Tonight, we're just sitting with it, acknowledging it, letting it be here without needing it to be anything other than what it is. Your breath is slow now. Your body is relaxing. Your mind is beginning to quiet. And the emptiness, it's here, present, real. And that's okay. You don't have to fix it tonight. You don't have to understand it. You just have to be with it. Jung spent years working with people who carried this kind of emptiness. People who couldn't explain what they were feeling. People who had tried everything to fill the void and nothing worked. People who thought maybe there was just something fundamentally wrong with them. And what he discovered, what he learned, is that the emptiness isn't a flaw. It's not evidence of dysfunction. It's actually evidence of depth, of sensitivity, of an awareness that goes beyond the surface of things, of a psyche that's asking questions most people never even think to ask. Questions like, what am I here for? What actually matters? Is there more to existence than this? What does it mean to be alive? These aren't small questions. These are the questions that give rise to the void, that create the emptiness when we don't have answers, when we can't find meaning, when we look at our lives and feel disconnected from something essential. And most people never ask these questions. They just go through life, following the script, doing what they're supposed to do, and they might be fine. Or they might be carrying their own quiet emptiness and not even recognizing it, not even acknowledging it's there. But you're asking, you're aware, you're feeling the emptiness, and you're not content to just ignore it, to just pretend everything's fine when it's not. And that awareness, that honesty, that's actually a gift, even though it doesn't feel like one. Even though right now it just feels like pain. Jung would say the emptiness is your psyche's way of saying, you're ready for something more. You're ready to go deeper. You're ready to explore dimensions of existence that most people never access. But first, you have to be willing to sit in the not-knowing, to be with the void, to let it show you what it has to show you. And that's what tonight is. That's what this is. An invitation to stop fighting, to stop trying to fill the emptiness, to stop making it wrong, and instead to just be with it, to listen to it, to see it as something that might actually be meaningful, important, worth exploring. Let yourself drift now. Let your conscious mind begin to release. Let the deeper parts of your psyche come forward. The parts that understand things your thinking mind doesn't. The parts that speak in feelings and symbols and experiences beyond words. The emptiness is here, but you're here too. And tonight, you're not alone with it. Jung's understanding is here. His wisdom about the nature of the void, about what it means, about what it's trying to communicate. And as you sleep, as you rest, that wisdom will work in you, will help you see the emptiness differently, will help you understand what it might be pointing you toward. For now, just breathe, just be, just let yourself feel what you feel, without judgment, without trying to change it, without needing it to be anything other than what it is. The emptiness you cannot explain, it's here, and that's okay. You're okay, even with the void, even with the not knowing, even with the feeling that something fundamental is missing. You're exactly where you need to be, feeling exactly what you need to feel. And over the course of tonight, as we explore this together, something will shift. Not because we fix the emptiness, but because we learn to be with it differently, to see it differently, to understand it as something other than a problem. Just rest now. Just let yourself be held by the darkness, by the quiet, by the knowing that this emptiness, it's not meaningless, it's not nothing, it's actually trying to show you something important. And we're going to discover what that is, together. As you drift, as you rest, as you let yourself finally stop fighting and just be. Sleep is coming. The conscious mind is fading. And the deeper work begins. The work of understanding, of listening, of seeing what the emptiness has been trying to tell you all along. You're safe. You're here. You're not alone. And the void, the emptiness you cannot explain, it's about to reveal itself as something other than what you thought. Just breathe. Just rest. Just be. Everything else you'll discover together. As you rest here, drifting deeper now, I want to help you understand something. Why this emptiness is so hard to explain. Why, when you try to put it into words, the words just, they don't capture it. They don't reach what you're actually feeling. Jung understood this. He understood that there are experiences, psychological experiences, spiritual experiences even, that exist beyond the reach of language, that live in a realm where words just can't go. And the emptiness, this particular kind of void you're feeling, it's one of those experiences. It's not that you're bad at explaining. It's not that you haven't found the right words yet. It's that words themselves are insufficient for what you're experiencing. Because language is designed to describe things, objects, events, concrete realities. But the emptiness you feel, it's not a thing. It's an absence, a void. And how do you describe nothing? How do you explain a feeling that's defined by what's not there rather than what is? You can say, I feel empty, and people nod. They think they understand, but they don't. They can't, because empty can mean so many things. Empty like a glass that needs filling. Empty like a schedule that needs activities. Empty like a life that needs more friends or hobbies or purpose. But that's not what you mean, is it? You mean something else. Something deeper. Something that exists at a level where adding more things, more people, more activities, more anything. It doesn't touch it, doesn't reach it, doesn't fill it. This is what Jung called the existential void. The emptiness that's not about lacking external things, but about meaning. About connection to something larger than yourself. About a sense that your life is oriented towards something that matters, something real, something true. And when that orientation is missing, when you can't feel that connection, when meaning feels absent or inaccessible, or like something other people have but you don't, that's when the void opens up. That's when the emptiness becomes unbearable. Let your breath slow even more now. Let yourself sink deeper into rest. We're going to explore this together. We're going to try to understand what creates this kind of emptiness. Not so you can fix it necessarily, but so you can. So you can see it more clearly. Understand what it's actually about. Because Jung believed, and I think he was right, that we can't work with something we don't understand. We can't transform something we can't see clearly. And right now, the emptiness probably feels like this formless, overwhelming thing that has no shape, no cause, no explanation. But it does have a shape. It does have a cause. Or maybe multiple causes. And understanding them won't make the emptiness disappear instantly. But it might help you feel less lost in it, less confused by it, less alone with it. So let's talk about where this emptiness comes from. What creates it? What feeds it? What makes it so persistent and so resistant to all your attempts to fill it? One thing Jung noticed, one pattern he saw again and again, is that this kind of emptiness often emerges when people are living, when they're living according to someone else's script, following a path that was laid out for them, doing what they're supposed to do rather than what's actually true for them. Maybe you went to college because that's what you were supposed to do. Chose a career because it seemed practical and respectable. Or because your parents wanted it for you. Got married because that's what people your age do. Had kids because that's the next step. Built a life that from the outside looks fine, looks successful even, but inside there's this growing sense that you're not really living your life. You're living someone else's idea of what your life should be. And somewhere along the way, you lost touch with what you actually want, what you actually value, what actually matters to you, if anything does anymore. And that disconnection, that split between who you're being and who you actually are. Jung would say that's one of the primary sources of existential emptiness, because you can't feel full, you can't feel whole, you can't feel alive when you're not actually living as yourself. You're living as this construct, this persona, this version of you that fits the expectations and meets the standards and does what's appropriate. But the real you, the actual you, it's buried somewhere, unexpressed, unlived, and that creates a void. Or maybe it's not about living someone else's script. Maybe it's about about having achieved what you were supposed to achieve and discovering that it didn't. It didn't fill you the way you thought it would. Didn't make you feel the way you thought you'd feel. You got the degree. You got the job. You got the relationship or the house or the success or whatever it was you were working toward. And for a moment, for a brief moment, you felt something. Relief, maybe. Pride. A sense of accomplishment. But then the feeling faded. And underneath it, underneath the achievement, the emptiness was still there. Unchanged, untouched. And you thought maybe you just need the next thing, the next goal, the next achievement. And so you keep going, keep striving, keep reaching for something that you hope will finally make you feel full. But it doesn't. It never does. Because you're trying to fill an existential void with external achievements. And Jung understood. He understood that these are different dimensions, different levels of being. And what fills one doesn't touch the other. You can have all the success in the world and still feel empty. Because the emptiness isn't about what you have. It's about who you are, how you're being, what you're connected to, what gives your life meaning beyond just accumulating things or reaching goals. Just notice as you lie here, does any of this resonate? Are you living someone else's script? Are you chasing achievements hoping they'll fill the void? Just notice. No judgment, just awareness. There's another source of this emptiness that you identify, and it's harder to name, harder to see, but it's equally important, and that's what he called the unlived life. The parts of yourself that were never expressed, never developed, never allowed to exist. Maybe when you were young you had certain qualities, certain interests, certain ways of being that were discouraged or dismissed or punished, and so you learned to hide them, to suppress them, to cut them off, until eventually you forgot they were even there. Or maybe you had dreams, possibilities you imagined for yourself, paths you wanted to explore, but circumstances, or fear, or responsibility, or just life got in the way. And you set those dreams aside, told yourself maybe later, maybe someday, and someday never came. And now you're living this life. This one particular life out of all the lives you could have lived. And somewhere inside, there's a sense of all those unlived possibilities, all those unexpressed parts of yourself. And they create a kind of absence, a void where something could have been but isn't. This is one of the most painful sources of emptiness, because it's not just about what you don't have, it's about who you're not being, who you could have been but aren't. And that loss, that sense of potential unfulfilled, it creates a grief that's hard to name, hard to explain. Because you can't grieve something that never existed, can you? But you can. You do. You're grieving the unlived life, the unexpressed self, the possibilities that were closed off. And that grief, it manifests as emptiness, as a void where a fuller version of yourself could have existed but doesn't. Jung believed that this is especially common in what he called the second half of life, midlife and beyond.
personas como equipo de trabajo. Yo te digo, pero y espero que Tony, donde esté que esta sobrina, como quitarse la cara hacia las personas, y era rara. Esto que te voy a contar, familia nocturna, son de las historias.
Into. It is everything that you have.
We experience this other realmness when we visit other cultures, where they think and do things as we've never done them before. That's what makes fish out of water stories so compelling in movies. There's somebody, their world is different from the world they're immersed in. And, you know, I think of a fish who's only ever known water, and then they're fished out, and then there's a hook in their lip, and they're looking around, and there's like, they feel sunlight. Like, what the hell is that? And who's this creature holding? And then the hook gets undone because they don't weigh enough to be kept. They get tossed back in the water. And now they have to describe that experience to other fish. You gotta believe me. I was taken out of this dimension, and I was put in a whole other dimension, and it wasn't even wet. I didn't even know what not being wet means. And and I felt this fire in the sky, and I don't even know what fire is. And it's an alien abduction story being communicated.
It's also a psychedelic or transcendental story you're telling.
Sure, except...
Where does that fit in?
Except psychedelic stories, your brain makes it all up. It's not... I had an argument with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan so badly wanted me to take drugs.
You shouldn't feel so special. He wants everybody to take drugs.
I said to him, the human brain barely works as it is.
True.
Why is it that we have these books called Optical Illusions, simple line drawings? Is it in the page? Is it out? Is it longer? I don't know. Simple drawings are stumping your human mind. Our brain barely works. You now want to stir in chemicals of any kind and assert that you now have a closer awareness of objective reality? I am yet to be convinced of that. You'll have an awareness of other things your brain is capable of, but as a scientist that cares about what is objectively true, and objectively true means you can do the experiment, you can do the experiment, and we all get the same answer. That's what objective truth is to me. Your trip that you took in your mind is no less real to you than anything else you've experienced. But science is what allows us to disentangle what you experience and think is true from what actually happens and is true.
So take away the drugs. Take away the drugs. Yogis, mystics, for thousands of years have placed themselves in a state where we actually know the science behind what's happening. And there's phenomenal studies on meditation, right? What is happening in who's it, the Tibetan monks? You can image them, right? What's happening when you are able to lower your brain waves, right, to a theta state, and you are accessing.
Is it theta state?
Well, yeah,
oh
like it's like, you know, you're getting to like theta state.
Got half
right?
the Greek alphabet going there. I like my alpha beta state, but I'm not getting the theta.
No, but the notion is when you place your nervous system in such a way, right?
In a
when
state.
you're correct, your parasympathetic nerve, right? You are getting your vagus nerve on. We know this is all like the vagus nerve is touching every organ system and lowering heart rate. It's doing all these amazing
Love
things.
Me the vagus nerve.
When you get into this state, there are, for thousands of years accounts, and even now, people who describe, with all due respect to Joe Rogan, pretty much the same kind of trippy, next level access to a higher consciousness, right? They're in touch with something bigger than themselves. Many people do experience a notion of love as this universal language, which, yes, many people call God. But even in the absence of drugs, this is the chemistry of our brain. This is endogenous, right?
Sure.
So what is that mystical experience, and what can it tell us about, I mean, many people would say there's a universal consciousness.
Yeah,
I've experienced it in meditation.
It can tell us nothing about the objective reality in which that human being is embedded, because it's all happening inside their head. And now, is that a narrow-minded statement? Like, perhaps, but I have yet to see evidence. So, for example, if entering that trance the yogi says, the next law of quantum physics is, and they write it down, and then we experiment. Oh my gosh!
Right.
Then I would be going into those trances.
Right.
I would say, show me. Let's do that. But that has not happened.
No, what happens is other things about God and connection and
Spirituality.
purpose and
They enter a spiritual realm.
Well, and for people who have trauma or people who
I'm
are
not
experiencing
denying
PTSD, it's very apparently it's helpful.
I'm not denying people their spiritual experiences
Right.
ever.
Right.
I will not. I'm not that guy. But the multiverse are actual other universes, and there are different varieties of multiverse. When the general relativity and quantum physics marry, it's really a shotgun marriage because they don't know how to behave in the sandbox. Because quantum physics is the science of the small, and relativity is the science of the large. And at the Big Bang, the large was small. So, does quantum phenomenon affect the entire universe when it would otherwise just be affecting particles? That's the fun, interesting frontier that is being explored there. So the two kinds of multiverse, well, there's more, but two basic kinds. One of them is we're in an expanding universe. We're in this bubble, this horizon. In this space-time, there could be, likely are other bubbles also expanding within this space-time, okay? But space-time is expanding faster than these bubbles will overlap, we think. If they overlap, who knows what that would look like. But there are pockets of universes expanding within a one contingent space-time. All of those universes would have the same laws of physics. Whereas, another kind of, as I've come to understand it, because I'm not the researcher on the frontier here, I give you the names of 3 or 4 trustworthy sources here. So another kind is quantum physics in that state pumps out an entire new universe. One this way, one that way, and quantum physics has quantum variations in physical properties. And so this one, the charge on the electron is slightly different. And this one, antimatter behaves a little differently. And maybe this universe, there are more planets than this. Or maybe there's no matter in that universe. And there's more. So these variations would make it hard to imagine other life that we would have any kind of real relationship with. It's this other kind of multiverse where people think about, in that universe, I have a goatee and I'm evil. Or I married my childhood sweetheart rather than this deadbeat that I didn't know.
We don't need to get personal.
So those are actual other realities, and I don't want to confuse that with whatever might be going on in the
Correct.
Just a button on this, because some people use the simulation theory to describe
and
interpret.
Find the admin building. At least you don't have to crack the safe yourself. Although if you could, I'd be impressed. And suspicious.
External filtering that is impacting our external reality, whereby in those meditative states you're dropping the filters, you're dropping some of the really childhood programming, and you know how much is objective reality that we are all experiencing and how much is subjective based on the fact that you and I will look at something and no matter how similar we think it is, it will never be similar.
My understanding of this, and I can confirm or deny it, is that at all times it's a mixture of the two. No matter what you've done with the state of your brain, it's a combination of your senses bringing reality to your mind receiving it, interpreting it, and giving you an understanding of that reality. And that understanding will not necessarily match the understanding provided by others. And that's why we needed science in the first place.
100%. And what's interesting is that when people are meditating like that, the similarity of that experience seems to be universal in some way that is intriguing.
You mean Earthwell, not universal. You're talking to an astrophysicist here. Okay. Like Miss Universe was Miss Earth all along. Okay. Let's be clear about that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So if meditative states are reproducible to some common experience, that signals to us the common origin of the human mind among us all. I mean, that has interesting biophysiological conclusions you might be able to draw. Gaining access to these deeper evolutionary states that we evolved past, but maybe they're still there lurking. either for our benefit or for
I mean, I like to think of it more as a parallel evolution, right?
Okay.
Meaning I don't think of it as having sort of a beginning, middle, end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, let me get back to the time element.
Oh,
here.
yes.
Love me some time.
Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite books. I'm not a big reader of novels. I read mostly nonfiction. So maybe there are plenty of other books that would enchant me the way this one did. I just have never read them.
Let's see, what is he going to say?
No, it's Slaughterhouse 5.
Oh,
by
of course,
Kurt Vonnegut.
Vonnegut.
Okay. Yes, it's partly autobiographical. As his time serving in the Second World War in Dresden after it had been bombed by the Allied forces. So that's a backdrop. But my takeaway was he was abducted by aliens. I loved it, and he was put in a zoo, in a closed room. But, and that sounds like I don't want that. But the aliens gave him access to the timeline of his life. So at any point he could just rejoin his life and live that moment.
Shout out to Kurt Vonnegut.
Yes! Yes! Particularly that early. People weren't thinking storytelling in that way.
No.
And it was a brilliant mechanism for storytelling rather than jumping back and forth just as a...
I thought you were going to say the time traveler's wife, which is also excellent.
Oh, so yeah, he could have just did it as a storytelling motif. You know, you go forward and backwards, and then you confuse the reader, and it's passed off as brilliant writing. He just made it a literal timeline that you have access to. Our problem is that we are prisoners of the present, forever transitioning between our inaccessible past and our unknowable future. If we had access to our timeline, that'd be a fun game changer. The real question would be, if you go back in time, can you do an offshoot and change what would have happened in that future? Or do you have to live it exactly the way it happened? And then you could just get bored with your life.
This is just a fun bonus question. Have you heard of the Akashic Records?
I might have. It's ringing a bell, but give me more.
I don't know that I subscribe to it, but there is a notion, and it's in many mystical traditions by various names. Indian traditions, there's several traditions for a very, very long time, hundreds, if not thousands of years.
India means subcontinent? India.
Like South Asia.
Native. South Asia.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
Excuse me.
The notion, and many in communities that you may not intersect with, but many in holistic, alternative, spiritual, mystical, yogic circles, believe that there is an accessible record of everyone that can be tapped into. It is everything that you have ever done.
So it's a communal consciousness.
It is literally a collective consciousness, and there's an elaborate meditation that you go into to access it. And there are people who do readings for other people. You give them your information, and they pull out things. I mean, you have more experience with this because you've heard more about this than I have, but it's just interesting that these are places where I wish we had more information, right, about what are we actually accessing. And many people don't need the proof, and they just say, I believe that it exists, and so it does. Those people are not scientists, and God bless them.
Let me pose a challenge for you. There are 4 forces of nature. Okay?
I'm one of them. Yeah.
Woo! That would make you be the 5th force of nature. Okay. So almost every part of our life experience unfolds from the electromagnetic force. It's what holds our molecules together, our thoughts, our interaction with light. Yes, of course, there's gravity that holds us on Earth. And there's the strong nuclear force that keeps our atoms as they are, but we don't experience atoms so much as we experience molecules. And molecules come together for the electromagnetic force, the charge on the electron. All right.
It's what holds us all together.
Correct.
Literally.
Correct. When LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, measured this gravitational wave created by the collision of 2 black holes in a galaxy long ago.
Far, far away.
Far, far away. This washed over the experiment, specifically, exquisitely designed to detect a ripple in the fabric of space and time. It had to be so sensitive, it could detect a change in the position equal to 100th the diameter of an atomic nucleus.
Not even a number.
Okay? Okay. If you have powers of telepathy, of mind reading, of whatever, that's going to show up in that experiment because we are monitoring the behavior of all matter, energy that is interacting with other matter and energy. So, if we don't see that,
Right.
I'm giving very low confidence that you're actually doing anything.
Interesting. It's very interesting.
Let me tell you how sensitive it is. If someone is walking a half a mile down the street, it'll send a vibration into the earth that they could detect. So everybody's on shutdown when they're doing the experiment. And there's some things they can't avoid, like the gurgling of the earth or the cloud. So they model that and then they subtract it out from the data. So that's how precise science is. And earlier on, you said science is cocky. They think they understand it. What we do understand, we're justifiably cocky.
Yeah.
But on the frontier where we don't understand, we better be humble, otherwise you're just an asshole. Okay? And I will tell you, we don't know, I'll humbly say, we don't know dark matter, dark energy. I can list
Kendrick
it
said,
for you.
sit down, be humble.
Tell us some of the things that you don't know that are on the frontier that are baffling.
Oh, it's not just what I don't know, it's what is not known.
Yes,
If it's
that's
just
what I
me,
meant.
then I'll just research it and no, for me the four biggest questions are, what is dark matter? We can measure it, we don't know what's causing it. What is dark energy? We can measure it, so it's real. We didn't just make this up. It's a measurement. Dark energy, we don't know what that is. Combine those together, it is 95% of what is driving the universe. Everything we know, love about chemistry, biology, physics, engineering, it's in 4 or 5% of what is happening in the universe. I want to know how we got from organic molecules, which nature makes really easily, to self-replicating
It's the best. It's the best question.
I love it.
It's the best.
I want to know what was around before the Big Bang.
I know.
I want to know, are humans smart enough to figure out the universe, or are we clever enough to just step on the rung in the ladder put there by people that came before us, and we slowly ascend the wall? No one person had that brilliance. I can't invent calculus, I'm not smart enough, but Isaac Newton did. I'm stepping on his shoulders, using the calculus to make another advance. Maybe we can increment our way to something that the alien toddler could have just done trivially. So maybe that is how we would figure out the universe. I don't know, but for me, that's a big question. For me, those are my five biggest questions.
So I want to ask something about what was before the Big Bang. Because the answer to this, and I am a person who comes from a religious and spiritual tradition where we talk a lot about this, and our Kabbalistic text delves into things that even the Old Testament does not, and many of them relate to physics, and many of them relate to...
Are you a Kabbalist? Is that...
I'm not a Kabbalist, but I value our text. Yes.
Wasn't who else? Madonna was a Kabbalist, wasn't she?
Madonna studied at a facility that teaches Kabbalah, but in our tradition, it's not something.
Our is Jewish tradition.
Correct. In the Jewish tradition, it's not something that is studied lightly. It's an intellectual and kind of specific religious pursuit. But one of the things that is talked about is that
Plus, being named Madonna kind of disqualifies her.
It's fine. We have rules. One of the things that many of us talk about in terms of what came before is something that we don't get to quantify, and we don't get to know it, and we don't get to calculate it. And it doesn't mean that it didn't exist, and doesn't mean that we don't believe in it, but it's something that is beyond the realms of the understanding we have that is a scientific approach.
Yeah, sure.
Are you comfortable with that kind of uncertainty in general?
As a scientist,
Yeah.
in fact, there's a poem by the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke. Wrote a book called Letters to a
Young...
Oh, give me some love there. All right. Letters to a Young Poet.
Yes.
And there's a short poem, and I'm embarrassed that it's short enough I should have just memorized it. But I was never that guy, though, who memorized poems. But There's a line that says, be at peace with all that stirs within your heart.
That's right.
Learn to love the questions themselves. So, a scientist on the frontier has to be in that state. Otherwise, you will force answers before their time, before you have sufficient data, and you will derail the pure curiosity that is what got you to be a scientist in the first place. So I'm completely comfortable saying, I don't know what was around before the Big Bang. And like I said, we have top people working on it. And it's when you say, it's got to be something, it was God. Okay, but I'm still in the unknown part.
That's not your business. Meaning you're not in the business of that.
I'm in the business of figuring out the unknown. And as a result, the unknown does not bring me discomfort, it brings me excitement.
I love that.
It is the unknown that has me jump out of bed each day and say, what's the next unknown that needs my attention?
You mentioned that what does keep you up at night is that potentially there's a civilization that could be, if they are out there, 1%, 5%.
Oh, no,
more
not
dead.
specifically. That's surely the case. What keeps me up at night is, are we smart enough to figure out the universe? Because that affects my profession.
Yeah.
Are we just, bounding along, touching the toenail of an elephant with no hope of ever seeing the elephant? And here we are coming up with hypotheses of what the larger truth is. And that's what keeps me up at night. Not if there's smarter aliens. I'm good with that. And if they find us and they want to make us their pet, I'm okay with that too. No, because think about it. How do you treat your pet? Better than you're treating the homeless person who you just stepped over to get to your office.
Feels kind of judgy.
But am I wrong?
I bought a homeless man a meal the other day, but
yes,
just
but you'd invite him into your home and feed him and shower him the way you would take a stray pet. So we treat our pets better than we treat humans who are strangers.
The title for this episode is, hopefully humanity will become the pets of aliens.
That's the best we might be able to hope for. Otherwise, it won't bode well for us.
Is the universe going to end, and should we be concerned that it is slowly imploding?
I mean, if it does end, we won't know about it.
Well, all of our data tell us that we're on a one-way expansion trip, and just deal with it. It's not going to recycle. It's philosophically unsettling, because if it was a recycling universe, that gets rid of the origin question. It's just always been cycling.
It was, is, and always will be.
Exactly.
But Earth, we're not doing so great with our planet, but she'll be fine. We won't.
Oh, right.
We'll kill ourselves off.
People, I hadn't heard Earth genderized in quite some time, so I had to get through that sentence. Sorry. Yes, she will do just fine.
Yeah.
Mother Earth, if we're going to go there. Mother Earth. When people say save Earth, no. Earth is going to be here before, during, and after anything we do to it. It's save life on Earth, and not even save humans. Save life on Earth. Our survival depends on the survival of the biosphere in which we're embedded.
Which we're already destroying.
Correct.
Yeah. That was uplifting.
Okay, you want me to leave you an uplifting note?
Let's get a little hope for the end. What do you want people to take away and implement into their daily lives about all the topics that we talked about, but particularly our place in the universe and having excitement about the unknown?
Yes, I'm biased here, but I'm not ashamed of this bias. That of anything humans have ever invented, science may be uniquely capable of giving us access to our understanding of our place in the universe and secure pathways into our future to assure our health, our wealth, and our security. The extent to which people either are in denial of science or reject it, that will be the unraveling of an informed civilization. And we might as well just turn around and march straight back into the caves, because that's where we're going to end up without it.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, such an honor to have you here, and such a pleasure to talk about all these things, and we hope we get more time with you in the future.
Your God is too small.
My universe is too small, but at least it's expanding.
That was probably one of my favorite stories. Also terrifying.
There's also things that he says that it's like, it sounds like they're poems that he's got. Like, does he rehearse them in front of a mirror?
I would like to see inside of his brain how many folds he has.
Please.
They said that Einstein had a lot of folds.
You think he's got a lot of folds?
Where is he keeping all that information?
A lot.
Does he
a
not have
lot.
any song lyrics in there?
I don't think he doesn't have one song lyric.
I don't know that that's true.
Did anyone notice the pattern on his shirt? It looks like he's a rock and roller, but I don't think he's got any song lyrics in there.
You should have seen him walk in. He walked in with his hat and his skulls on
Adorable.
his shirt.
Yep, he didn't know that he had skulls on his shirt when he purchased it. So it's like a little bit of a deep cut. If you're watching this episode, can you pick up the fact that those are skulls?
He's such a fan of the Big Bang Theory, it's unbelievable.
Well, I think what he said is very true, that, you know, that was so special to have a show about this aspect of, you know, culture and our society. You know, I had never seen it when I auditioned for it, and so I remember when I kind of learned about it, I said, oh, these are the kind of people that I go to grad school with. These are all the people that I hang out with on the daily when you're in grad school.
I feel like my point about the mind-body connection was slightly mis-set up. Meaning, I wasn't attacking science, I was just trying to acknowledge that there are places, while the scientific method is our best way at understanding things, there are certain aspects that we cannot study and or that have fallen short. And when we've questioned people, they're so quick to dismiss any type of questioning in defense of what has been said to be true. And what he said, which I appreciated, is that many of the things that have been said to be true were not tested, but then they're still defended as this is what the science says, and there's no reason to disbelieve that.
I mean, I think there's a couple things. Like, truth be told, if I knew you wanted to bring that angle up, I would have presented a more cohesive, we could have talked about Neil Thies, like,
yeah.
I would have, I couldn't pick it out of the air. The Gabor Mate one, I think, is significant because, you know, no one would have thought there's a profile for people who get cancer, right? Like, it was sacrilege to think something like that, right? Or to talk about immune properties and how they relate to environmental stressors. You know, he's not in the realm of talking about intergenerational trauma, right? It's not what I would go to him for.
Or medicine per se. He's not.
Correct.
And he acknowledges
Correct.
the complexity of trying to study both psychology and physiology.
There's a couple issues I have with the fact that we are, let's say...
Great work. And good news, it was an easy safe to crack. They're already done. The mind map shows alternate passages were under construction. At least before the roof collapsed. I wonder if we could reinforce them to get you away inside. Maybe you can check it out. See if it can be done.
%1 different from chimps, and what would someone 1% more, you know, than us look like? Because that's assuming that it's on some sort of like linear and like exponential, like the scale doesn't have to be the same. But anyway, I didn't want to get into that with him. But I understand the point. And I thought he'd be like, there's no aliens, that's not a thing. And I was pleasantly surprised that what he said was the simulation is kind of stacked like that in fractals. And, you know, Valerie mentioned there's literally a couple Black Mirror episodes specifically about that. But also this notion that, yeah, there's got to be something a lot more intelligent than us to be observing us. And that's why he doesn't entertain this notion of like, they're visiting us and like laser lights and like abductions. That's a different conversation.
The other thing that I had an issue with was somewhat of an oversimplification of the caveman's lifespan. Because
I thought of that too. Like, we're not going to live forever. There's a ceiling effect to how long we're going to live.
Yes, and
or not.
The idea that it was clean water and everything was organic.
I didn't like that.
We didn't have enough access to food, so farming, of course, increased the proliferation of food and increased the fact that we could have access to food regularly. No
one knew about nutrition also.
We didn't have shelter, so like I think there's, when we say that science has extended our lifespan, no one is arguing that whatsoever. Of course, medical interventions, the fact that we have sanitation, the fact that we have indoor plumbing.
Just wash your hands before you stick them in a body.
The fact that we have shelters now, that we're not living in caves, like
caves can be very protected.
There are so many advancements in modern civilization that, of course, have.
Correct.
So I feel like it's a mixed metaphor.
I agree.
It's not that, we should eat organic.
I agree. I really don't know why I'm defending chimpanzees this way.
You're getting really...
I got really fired up. Because the notion that if you put a chimpanzee in a human laboratory and you're like, do you understand what I'm saying? And the chimpanzee will not. It doesn't mean they're not, it doesn't mean they don't have intelligence or capacity. It's not a measurable intellectual capability, but chimpanzees are incredibly sophisticated. Also, they live in very, very elaborate social groups with very, intricate rules. They use tools, they pass down information. I mean, like, it's a very, very highly evolved, beautiful, but yes, that's true, they don't speak.
Besides the people who are on the TV show Naked and Afraid, who get sent out into the wilderness to try and survive.
Yes.
He says, we can all survive. No, we can't. If I sent 99% of city dwellers out into the wilderness and said...
they'd be dead in an hour.
Good luck. You're not faring so well. That's been bred out of us. We've lost that.
Well, but he's talking about ingenuity and look, I also don't think that spoken language is the only measure of intelligence. We know that there are a lot of different kinds of intelligence. We know that, even Stephen Hawking, the example that he used, right? Used a computer to communicate, coupled with eye movements and all these, So I don't think he was speaking with such, he wasn't painting with such a broad brush. But just, again, I don't know why I'm defending the chimpanzees, but I am.
I'm always struck by the dark matter, dark energy conversation.
I wish we had more time to get to it with him.
Like, the biggest problem in science is that 95% of what makes up our universe is unknown. Is no one else troubled by that?
I think it's a lot more troubling than people let on. Even the fact that when you look at something, you think you're seeing the thing. I'm going to just use this glass. I think when I look at this, like, I see a glass. And if you were to ask me to describe this glass, I'd be like, oh, well, it looks like this, and here's the diameter, and oh, there's this beveling, and here's the color, right? There's the fluid that's in it that I can perceive, and all these things. That's actually, if you either pull back or zoom in, that's not what this is, right? This is the representation that's been presented upside down on the back of my eye, on the retina.
I don't even know what you see there. I could be seeing something totally different.
We would probably describe this glass similarly.
Our words could be used to be different, but you could actually be seeing something fairly...
That's a different point about the limits of human language, but I'm even talking about individual perception.
Yeah.
This is an object, right, that is made up of molecules, and it's absorbing everything from the color spectrum except what I'm seeing, right? So if you were to be an alien from another planet, if you were to be an outside observer, this is actually not what things look like. This is what our brains compute from the data that we can perceive that is processed by the brain that we have. That's what we see. That's why when people talk about that this is just a projection, right? It's projected onto a screen. The world is wearing a mask, right? That's what all this is.
You don't actually exist.
None of us exist.
You are a figment of my imagination sitting in the chair across from me.
Does my hair look better than I perceive it?
Put here by an alien toddler in his terrarium in the simulation that I was created in.
And we'll tap into the Akashic Records to have access to it all.
Seems about right. If you want more of this type of fun, follow us on Substack. Mine, the Alex Breakdown on Substack, where we release content exploring these topics in depth and answer listeners and community members' questions. So come on over and check it out.
From our breakdown to the one we hope you never have. We'll see you next time.
It's my the Alex Breakdown. She's gonna break it down for you. She's got a neuroscience PhD or two on fiction, and now she's gonna break down. It's a breakdown. She's
Valentine's Day's coming up, and whether you want to
and dangerous relationships that people, at a certain point you kind of go over the cliff edge and then you're in free fall and there's like a lot of damage that gets done, or maybe the cliff edge is, you know, your life blows up financially because you put off doing something sooner, or maybe the cliff edge is that, you know, there's a certain amount of time that's passed that you can never get back. But that idea of going off the cliff edge is in some ways has been important to me, because I see part of what I do as, can I get someone to act? Now, can I almost even create a fake cliff edge now that stops them from getting to the real cliff edge, where there's going to be so much time passed that they're now going to have deep regret about having spent that long with that person, or there's going to be such chaos in their lives, or they will have lost so many other relationships because of this relationship. And I said to this woman I was coaching, I can't make you leave. And the reality is, the really tough reality is, you might need to experience a lot more pain yet before you leave. I can't determine for you how much pain you need in order to leave. We all have our threshold. And the scary thing, and I'm kind of in a way talking about a certain kind of breakup here, because there's some truly toxic and dangerous relationships that people get into, and I don't mean just dangerous physically, but just dangerous in the sense that they're with someone that really robs them of their soul, their identity, their, you know, confidence, everything. But there was a Beth Macy, I think it's Beth Macy, who wrote about the opioid crisis in America. She said the scary thing about opioids is that, you know, the cliche about drugs is that, you know, someone will hit rock bottom and it's at that point that they'll ricochet back up again. And she said, no, with opioids, people hit rock bottom and then they realize rock bottom has a basement, and that basement has a trapdoor. And there are relationships like that where you think someone, oh, this is the point where they leave. And it's like, no, something even worse has to happen yet, and something even worse has to happen. So there's no one answer, but at a certain point, I think that we have to hit a kind of pain threshold where we say, is this really, can I endure this for the rest of my life? Do I deserve to endure this for the rest of my life? And one trap we have to be very careful of is someone asked me a question in my membership the other day, what did she say exactly? She said, what if what I have right now is like
the best that's available,
the best that I can get? What if better isn't out there? And I said that you have to be really careful with that logic, because you're saying that the only reason to leave is if you believe, from this place of fear right now that you're coming up with this question from, that someone better is coming. But you can't compare it with if you think something better is coming. You have to compare it with the happy that you can be without this person. And there's 1,000 different versions of that happy, and not all of them even involve another person. But in a way, could I do better is another trap that will keep you where you are, because now all I need to do is speak to enough friends who tell me that dating is a war zone and it's terrible and you don't know what it's like out here. You don't want to be back out here again. And you go, well, then I'll stay, right? That's a trap.
Yeah. It's a very odd situation that there is this threshold of pain. Like somebody will say, I knew it was over 6 months or 2 years or 5 years or 15 years before I left. What does that mean? I knew it was over, but I didn't leave. It's strange, right? There's two things going on at once. There is whatever this justification, motivation thing is to push somebody out of the relationship finally, or to build up the bravery or the resentment or the bitterness or the whatever to be able to say this is it. And that sometimes seems to be separate. The motivation to leave seems to be separate to the awareness that this is not right. Is that a fair way to frame it?
I think it's a really important distinction. Yeah. I think you can have lost hope that it's going to get better. You really just have to, the activation energy, right? The activation energy of leaving is high. I have to go through heartbreak, loss, untangling my life from somebody else's, explaining it to all of my friends and family, letting my community know, whatever it may be. There's all these ways that I've got to do a lot and endure a lot and pass through a lot of pain in order to leave. The activation energy of staying is a lot lower. So it's natural. I think it's human behavior that we default to what we have now, even
status quo bias.
Yeah. And then add to that the sunk cost bias.
Yeah.
And that's a real thing.
Loss aversion.
Add to that the fear that somehow in the time I've been in this relationship, my appeal has gone down in the world. I'm no longer...
My stock price is halved.
Yeah, and now I'm going out and I'm going to do worse as a result, or I'm going to struggle to meet someone as a result. All of these things just converge to create a kind of paralysis that says, yes, maybe I'm not happy, but not today.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that people stay in relationships for huge swaths of time that they're not supposed to. All of this sort of converges together to create a really difficult situation for most people to survive. It is definitely an interesting question to ask, that what if this is the best that's available? But if you say, well, this relationship is making you unhappy, you would be happier on your own. Like, forget if there's something better out there. You're choosing miserable connection or miserable coupling over satisfactory singleness.
The hard part is that what we haven't spoken about is ego, the way ego plays into relationships. And especially if you think, there's the archetype of someone who's maybe with someone who they don't feel like they're happy with, they don't feel like this person is that great, they don't treat them that great. They're kind of like, there's an apathy of, do I leave, do I stay, a fear of, am I going to do better, all of that. But there's also, when we're with someone who makes us unhappy, but we love them, and, we think they're amazing, and we have, put them on a kind of pedestal where we're like, this person is the best I've ever gotten, and there's something truly special or unique about this person. Now our ego is involved in a really big way. And once ego is driving in that way, the ego is not asking, am I happy? Ego is like trying to feel enough.
Am I redeemed?
Yeah, if I can just secure this person, then we'll be all right. We'll be enough. And that's why there are, in dating, there's a lot of people who end up in relationships because they're so busy trying to get someone that they don't stop to ask whether it's actually advisable to get this person. And then they get that person, if they're lucky, And now we're in a relationship with someone who may be wildly incompatible with us, who doesn't make us happy. We're anxious all the time. We never quite feel good enough for this person. We don't get their full attention. We feel like we're being fed scraps. But on some level, we're like, but they're mine. And at least they're mine. And at least I'm in the game with this person. But when we feel like that, it's almost like the chase never really ends. The chase is a perpetual chase. Yes, on paper, I'm with this person, they're my partner, but I never quite feel like I have them.
Not arrived.
Yeah, I never feel safe. I never feel like they're as into me as I am into them.
Yeah.
And when we're in that place, it becomes like we become like chronically anxious, chronically stressed. Our nervous system is chronically jacked up. It's exhausting. Emotionally, it's exhausting. And of course, from the outside, you're like, this. I remember being in a relationship where a friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, she came on my podcast at the time, right?
Did you have an intervention on the podcast?
No, she didn't tell me. So we met up. We hadn't seen each other in months. Lives in New York. She's over. We have this podcast. She have a nice time. She leaves. I was in a relationship at the time. I was the person I'm describing. Deeply unhappy. But in my head, I was telling myself, I'm happier than I've ever been. I have this person, I'm with this. I remember after the breakup, this friend of mine, she said, I'll never forget that day when I met up with you and I came on your show. She said, I walked away, I called my sister. And she said, how's Matthew? And she said, oh, he is not good. He is not happy. And I had no idea how much I was telegraphing.
You were just leaking your unhappiness out of yourself, despite thinking that you were.
Yeah.
You'd made it. Dude, that's so fascinating. I've had it in my head. I had Huberman here yesterday, and I'd love to find out the sort of neurological underpinnings of what's happening during the I can fix her, I can fix him chase versus the I have arrived, I am safe, I am secure chase, which I guess is kind of less like a chase and more like a rest. Reason being, there's a lot of that sort of cortisol dopamine energy going on of this is a goal, and if I can achieve the goal, I will get a sense of satisfaction. But it's always very rushy. It's always kind of like a high and then a low, and there's whiplash, and it feels a little bit sort of chaotic and ambiguous and unpredictable and uncertain. And that's sure there are highs, but they're more like victories than they are true rests. And I would love to work out what the sort of neurochemicals that are driving that are, and I would wager that there will be stuff to do with pursuit and risk and edginess, right? Like adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, dopamine, as opposed to like oxytocin, serotonin. Like you are in a sympathetic relationship, not a parasympathetic relationship.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, and one produces, as you say, the roller coaster, and it's not just a feeling of achievement, it's relief. You know, like that's the feeling so often is relief. I have them. Like when that person who you just so want the approval of, and you so want them to want you back the way that you want them to think about you as much as you think about them. When that person says something, like they send you a text and they say, I miss you so much, I just love you so much, out of nowhere. You like, all of a sudden you're like, it's almost like your life was being threatened and now it's not. Now you feel like
someone's taken the gun away from you.
Yeah, oh my God, I'm safe. Right now in this moment, I feel briefly safe. And that release, that kind of euphoria that results from that, extraordinarily powerful. And that, when psychologists talk about that trauma bond, there is that variable reward nature to it.
What is a trauma bond?
Trauma bond is the idea that, someone treats you badly again and again and again and again and again. And at a certain point, it's so unrewarding that we might even consider, like, enough is enough. But then, right as we're starting to make up our mind about that person, they do something sweet. They do something seemingly kind. They show up for us in some way. They apologize when they've, lied or gaslit us or made us feel awful about our feelings for the last 10 times. But all of a sudden, they show some promise, and then we're dragged back in or sucked back in. That's the trauma bond, and people stay in that for years and years and years. That's the really scary part. But there's a variable reward nature to that. That's, in a way, the slot machine, right? If you never won, chances are you wouldn't be there, but you win just enough that it keeps you there. The kind of safety that healthier, more slow release energy relationships produce is a different kind of feeling. And I sometimes, when I see, there's like certain Instagram content out there you see of people who are like, I'm just waiting. There was one I saw the other day from a guy who was like, I'm just waiting until, I'm not going to settle, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, I'm waiting until it's magical. I'm waiting because love is, I'm not going to settle for love that isn't magical, for love that isn't this, love that isn't that. And the more he spoke, the more, for me, it didn't feel like the version of love that tends to be enduring, that tends to be genuinely make people happy. It felt to me like a kind of justification for constantly waiting for that feeling. And I think we get, like, in some ways these arguments get pitted against each other. Like, it's either you find someone that is stable and healthy and it's kind of boring and you settled a little bit, but whatever, or you find someone who's exciting and it's passionate and it's magical and it makes you miserable. I don't think it's necessarily an either or in those terms, but I do think that in the same way you could do drugs and eat pizza every night and get drunk every night and that would produce a kind of high, but you're a healthy guy who values the feeling that being healthy gives you. There is something you get from that that's more powerful to you. And in relationships, until that thing becomes more powerful, you're always going to be chasing this other thing.
A quick aside, if you have been feeling a bit sluggish, your testosterone... I'm optimized for first sip, and we did a ton of taste testing on a lot of different drinks, and there were some drinks that have a little bit, this is getting a little bit sort of sickly off.
Makes me feel so, like, connected, and I'm like, we're going to be best friends. I've, like, fallen into the trap where I'm
You've been finessed by some dude on a night out.
Well, I've been so charmed that I'm like, I'm like, go home, and I say to
brother.
Yeah, like, you cut, this guy's great. And then I realized, like, how many of the friends I have, forget romance, how many of the friends I have in my life today that I truly value are the people that in the first 20 minutes I went home and was just like, I got to text that guy again, like, whatever. How many of them were that guy? Usually it's the people that over time I really, like, I value who they are, their character, the way they show up, their integrity, all of that. So the same is true in our love lives. It's very easy. We have to be very careful of getting bowled over by like a nightclub trick essentially. Like, wouldn't...
Careful besmirching the world of nightclubs, okay? You can take the boy out of promo, but you can't take promo out of the boy.
You know that nightclubs will often just hold a line outside, regardless.
Never did that.
Even when there's no one inside.
Never did that.
And then everyone sees the line outside of the club and says there must be something going on in there. Look how many people want to get in there. And then most of us have been in that place of like, we got in and we went, where is everybody? There's no one here.
There's no value.
There's more people in the line outside the club than there are inside the club. So we're all prone to that idea. And by the way, when we don't value ourselves, when someone else is showing themselves to be hard to get, we increase their value for two reasons. One, because it's natural. The natural economics of attraction is
scarcity.
If you make yourself seem hard to get, you're rare, and if you're rare, you must be more valuable. But there's also a personal part going on, which is if you reject me or if you make yourself hard to get for me, and I have even an inkling that I'm not enough, then I start thinking you're really valuable. It's almost like if you want me, I'm like,
I don't value me, so by you valuing me, there must be something wrong with you.
Yeah, there's something going on with you. You want me. Like, you're starting to dip in my eyes.
That is one of the most unfortunate dynamics for somebody to have, that I only want somebody who doesn't want me. Like, if that's your motivation, and somebody that seems to be kind and well-balanced and open, transparent about their wants and committed and ready now, and you go, oh, that doesn't, there's something in there that doesn't seem quite right, I can't work it out, but it's because you have low self-esteem. It's because you don't think very much of yourself, and that means that if you see somebody who shows up in a way that you are not prepared to show up for yourself, you assume that there's a pathology going on.
Yes. Yeah, there's something going on with them. And if you don't like me, or if you're not sure about me, well, you're onto something.
So I found on Reddit 5 questions to ask yourself if you're unsure about your relationship.
Okay.
Number 1, if someone told you you're a lot like your partner, would this be a compliment to you? Number 2, are you truly fulfilled or just less lonely? Number 3, are you able to be unapologetically yourself, or do you feel the need to show up differently to please your partner?
That's a good one.
Number 4, are you in love with who your partner is right now as a whole, or are you only in love with their good side, their potential, or the idea of them? And number 5, would you want your future or imagined child to date somebody like your partner?
These are good questions. Those are good questions. I think as well, would you... Here, I think this is a good one. If you and your partner had a child and then you died, and your child was going to be raised by them and only them, with all of their habits, values, behaviors, would that worry you, or would you feel like that was a problem, or would you be super happy with it?
Yeah, like, are you basically hoping that your future parenting, you're going to act as a gatekeeper or as a magnifier? It's like, well, you know, I'll be there, so I'll be able to protect them from the parent, or I'm happy to get the fuck out of the way because they're much better than I am. They're a much better person than I am. There was another one that I read this year that I thought was so fucking interesting, which was a question to ask yourself if you're unsure about your relationship. If you could wake up tomorrow morning and the relationship was over without you having to say it to them, would you feel relief? Or would you feel wistfulness?
I always...
We're getting all sorts of errors from the main power substation. Think that's something you can handle, Hotshot? You'll need to fix the pipes and haul some transformers around. But don't worry, I'll make sure you have the wheels for the job.
I remember having a dream about someone that I was at the time really heartbroken over. And it was like the moment I realized something had truly shifted in me that meant I was better. And because in the dream, we got back together. And then within 5 minutes of getting back together in the dream, the same things that made my life hell in the relationship were happening again.
Yeah.
And I suddenly in the dream thought, what have I done? Like, I've made a terrible mistake here. Why did I go back? Why am I back in this situation? And I woke up and I realized the nightmare was being back. The nightmare wasn't, having, been heartbroken. And that was a very profound. I'm not big on dreams, don't get me wrong, but that was a very profound moment for me to realize, like, oh, I'm finally, like, my brain has switched. But I do even remember, even in the midst of the worst heartbreak of my life, I do remember a sense of relief. And I don't want to say for 1 second I wasn't in the worst pain, because I was in terrible pain. And I was questioning myself, I was questioning my worth, I was like in a dark place. But I still remember feeling a sense of relief when I thought, I don't have to continue to feel the way that I did. Because I was so anxious. I was like a version of me that I really didn't, not just didn't like, but that I didn't, it was a version of me that was like the worst possible version of me in many ways. And I felt this sense of relief that no matter what, even if this is the worst heartbreak ever, I no longer have to feel that anxiety. I'm now deeply, deeply heartbroken in its place, but I don't have to feel that anxiety.
In other news, I've been drinking AG1 every morning for years now. Dude, you tried to fastball me that but in relationships where most of your time is spent questioning whether or not this is the right relationship, you're already alone. You're already alone in this relationship. And leaving is the first step to stopping that.
And that will bring on the all of those feelings will come to a kind of crescendo at that point, and there'll be heartbreak to go through and all of that. And any good coach or therapist, when someone is going through the most acute heartbreak, is not going to start by saying, why did you let that go on for so long? They're gonna start by just treating the wound. Like, we have to get you back to a feeling of safety again, of lessening this acute pain that you're feeling. But at a certain point, the question will come somewhere down the line: what happened there? Now that we're in a better place, what actually happened in that situation? What was going on that made you ignore your intuition? By the way, not instincts. Instincts and intuition are different.
How do you distinguish those?
Your intuition might be telling you something's not right. Like, I shouldn't be treated like this, or I should be in a relationship that's not this hard, or whatever. Your intuition can tell you that. Your instincts, as my boxing trainer used to say, will get you killed. Because your instinct might be, I feel unsafe, try harder. I'm not getting love, try harder, do more, stay in it. Instincts are what tell you when you get sucked out by a riptide in the ocean to swim straight back to shore, and the riptide's stronger than you, so you die. Your instincts won't tell you swim, take a longer putt. You already feel like you're gonna die? Take a longer swim back. Swim sideways, parallel to the ocean or to the shoreline, and then swim around once you're out of the tide. Your instincts won't tell you that. Your instincts in boxing don't tell you to slip. Your instincts in boxing tell you to blink right at the time where you need to have your eyes. So it's in a relationship, we all, most of us at least, have some bad instincts that have been trained. And those instincts get us into a lot of trouble. And actually, it's not, your instincts aren't necessarily you listening to yourself or that deeper voice. Your instincts are actually often what get in the way of that deeper voice and stop you protecting yourself. So to add some compassion and some comfort to that idea that, you know, we get into this thing and then I'm afraid to leave because I don't want to be the version of me that is like, realizes I've now lost myself and I'm like, feel like I'm starting from further behind and all of that. I think in many ways we shouldn't focus on the person that has become the object of all of this anxiety and cortisol and, you know, fight or flight. We should instead see them as a kind of like a revealer of something. Like there's something was already there in me, and that could have been ignited by 10 different people like this. And if it wasn't going to be ignited by this person, there's a very good chance it was going to be ignited by somebody else. And in a way, it might be a blessing that it got ignited by this person this year than someone 10 years from now. Because if this draws my attention to some, like, it's not our, I want to be very clear about something. I'm not saying it's our fault when someone treats us poorly. But when we ignore certain behaviors, when we continue to put ourselves in the firing line, it's in some ways powerful to know, okay, that revealed that showed me that. It's not that I'm further behind, it's that it became revealed exactly where I am. And now that I know that, that's beautiful. I know, forewarned is forearmed. I now know that something happened to me there. Instead of personalizing it, which actually makes this person too powerful. I shouldn't make this person that powerful. They're not that powerful. In our love lives, we have a tendency to make people into angels and demons. You know, they're either the angel on the pedestal that can do no wrong, and that's false, or they're the demon that has like got so much power over us because of, you know, the way they've hurt us and what they've become, and that gives them way too much power as well. I think instead it's like, no, let me take both of you off that pedestal and give you a lot less respect. And instead realize that all you were was the person that I met along the way that revealed something that was already there in me. And you're not so powerful that only you could have revealed that. There's 1,000 people that could have revealed that about me. But what I do now get to do is address that. And me addressing that today might be the thing that actually allows me to find healthy love.
Dude, you're so good. You're fucking fantastic. I mean, obviously you're like a fossil at doing this stuff now. You're like part of the fucking archaeology of the world of relationship. But I just think your insights are really, really wonderful, and I very much appreciate how you deliver them with sensitivity. A lot of the conversations now, especially actually even coming from sort of female advice online, feels male-coded. It's sort of quite stiff and stern and spiky, and it doesn't allow, and maybe this is just because most of the stuff that goes viral doesn't have the breathing room in terms of duration to be able to say, well, we need to be gentle with people here. We need to understand that humans do have emotions and they can't act rationally, as opposed to, here's the 5 icks that you need to know as a red flag for whatever. Like, does it fit into 45 seconds? If not, fuck off. But I think as a fellow sensitive Chad, like somebody who feels emotions more deeply than would probably be optimal. I think a lot of guys have, I can only speak for men, I imagine women probably have this even more so, like they on average tend to feel emotions more deeply. Like emotionality is one of the big sex differences between men and women. But for the guys that do, they're like, fuck, like I have a sense of shame or uncertainty or emasculation about the fact that I feel this thing and I should just be able to cut and run or not invest or not feel things that with the sort of level of depth that I do. And I think it's reassuring to people to hear, I'm not broken. Like that, it's okay for me to feel, maybe it's even good for me to feel these things. Maybe it gives me access to a depth of life and a resolution of existence that other people don't. And with that is going to come some potential pitfalls and some pains and some challenges. But if I can navigate those pretty well, look at how much beauty and connection and intimacy is available on the other side of this thing. But yeah, there's a bunch of pitfalls, and I think that the relationship, the ending of a relationship, the letting go, even in careers and friendships, this sort of weird balance that a lot of guys have, and girls too, increasingly now as they become sort of socioeconomically more independent and they've kind of got into their masculine energy more. Increasingly, these sorts of people living those sorts of lives say, well, look at how much discomfort I can put up with in my professional life. Or maybe I should apply that to my personal life. Maybe my resilience, my ability to endure hard things that I've developed in order to be great in my degree or great in my career or great at my sport of choice or whatever it is. Well, I can put up with a lot of discomfort there. And then this skill gets ported over because it's a noble skill, right? For most of the world, putting up with discomfort, going through hard things, enduring stuff, subjugating your own needs, putting your desires to one side in place of a bigger goal, chasing the dopamine, doing the thing, delayed gratification, right? Not taking right now's emotions as the most important thing, or right now's level of comfort or stability as the most important thing in place of something that's in future. And then when you take that and warp it just a tiny little bit, that becomes the very thing that is catastrophic to your personal relationships.
It's a really, really, really astute point. And that skill in itself, and thank you, by the way, for what you said. It's very meaningful.
You're the goat, man.
From
You're
you.
the goat.
It means a lot. It really does. That skill, let's just call it resilience, right? The ability to endure difficult things. It's a very, very powerful skill to have, a very powerful trait for one to have. But what we often don't realize is that there is, and I'm getting here into the work of people like Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels and Schwartz, but the idea that there is an inner child there who gets overlooked when those skills mutate into your kind of bodyguards that you rely on to get the job done in everything in your life. And those bodyguards showed up somewhere as a survival mechanism, like, you're not equipped to deal with this, like, I need to come along now and take care of this. And we forget who predated the bodyguards, what part of us predated those bodyguards, what part of us is kind of sick of us running the show, using these bodyguards, applying them to everything. These bodyguards are weaponized by fear, right? If you take your foot, if you for 1 second take your eye off the ball, it's all going to come crashing down.
Hypervigilance.
Right. These bodyguards are armed with your greatest, most catastrophic fears. And that brings them to life. And behind all of them, part of us that doesn't have a voice is this part of us that didn't need to be all of that, that didn't need to have all of that. And that's the part of us. There's a therapist, a coach, I should say, Kristen Stewart, Kristen Sargent. Kristen Stewart's an actress, I think, or an actor.
Yeah.
But she she said something to me that was very, very powerful. She said, that part of you that has been kind of abandoned. And for me, it's the part of me that, you know, just kind of like, I have an image of myself as a kid at a time when I didn't feel like I need to like hustle and do something, like try and like prove my worth, create safety. Like it's a version of me, I won't go into detail, but it's a version of me that's just like sitting at home very innocently and is like eating cookies and watching TV, like that version of me. And I don't have to go too far forward in my life to find a completely different version of me who was on the playground at school selling cookies, who was like, I gotta like, you know, I have to like earn money and I have to protect and I have to be safe and I have to, like, was already in that mindset. And there's such a difference between those two parts of me. Like this one, the bodyguard had already come out and said, we better crack on and we better start doing that, we better start doing that. And that part of me doesn't need more of a voice. You know, like when people say like, but what if I don't do that? What if I become soft? Or what if I become, and I'm like, that's not, as they say, the leading edge of your growth is figuring out how to do more of the same. You know how to be resilient. You like, no one needs to tell you to work out. You're gonna work out. No one needs to tell you to be ambitious. You're gonna be ambitious. It's in you. Like that. What's the part that's not natural to you? And the
Good work, as per usual. Okay, now we need to bring some steel beams to the lava quarry. If you're gonna be draining that mine and having a poke around, I don't want it caving in on you. So, we'll need those steel beams to brace the walls. Someone needs to look out for you, right?
The part that Kristen said to me that was very, very powerful was this voice. The bodyguards always have a voice. But this voice, this little you, only has the power that you give them. They only have the power in the material world that you actually give them. You're the person who has to actually materialize their demands. So ask them, like, hey, what do you need? Like, what would be help? What would represent a good day to you today? And what they say will probably scare the fucking shit out of you. Because they might say, I want us to, like, have some fucking fun. Does everything have to be so serious all the time? Does everything, like that? My bodyguard, I'm on the Chris Williamson podcast, right? You're a friend of mine. So there's a comfort there. But still, it's you, and this is a big show, and there's a lot of people watching. My bodyguard comes out and says, you better say good stuff on this show, and you better be your best, and you better, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this. But that little me If I ask him, like, what do you want? He'll say something very different. He might say, can we just like do the show today and just have fun doing it and like talk to our buddy and enjoy it, and no matter what, if we do it, like, this is one of the things I was taught, as long as we do it together, it's a win. Like, that is so powerful. And I know for a lot of guys, this kind of talk is not what they're used to. It's not the natural go-to. Us men are very, very hard on ourselves. We're more sensitive than most women will ever know. It routinely shocks women to learn how sensitive men actually are and how much things actually affect them. I think it's one of the reasons that women can be cruel and callous and dismissive, is because they don't realize.
They assume it's going to bounce off of this guy in front of them. Well, he doesn't show. He's not bothered by anything. He's kind of like a punching bag emotionally.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's this little boy inside of the guy who's getting bruised every time he gets hit.
100%. And like, us guys have to start. It's like you have to be the superhero that starts sticking up for that little boy, and ask yourself, what would that mean in this relationship? What would that mean in the way I'm working myself to the bone right now? What would that mean in the way that I'm berating myself constantly because this business isn't succeeding in the way that I would like it to? You know, what would that mean when I get rejected by a woman that I talk to or approach, and in that moment I get made to feel like I'm not good enough? What would it mean for me to be a superhero to him right now, and to take care of him and to give him what he needs? It's going to sound strange to a lot of men who have never looked at work in that way, but it's one of the most powerful things I've ever done. Like, it's truly, I find it life-changing.
In other news, if you're feeling tired, you might not need more sleep, you might not need more caffeine, you might just be dehydrated. And proper hydration is not just about drinking enough water, it's about having sufficient electrolytes. Rather than Eckhart Tolle.
Like, he would yell at me and he'd call me names, like just drill sergeant style. I got that guy in my head already. I don't need to externalize it. Like, that's the voice I've been needing to quiet down my whole life. And I said to this trainer at the time, I was like, dude, you can't, I promise you, this isn't what I need. Like, this isn't gonna work for me. I get it might be what some people need. You gotta find a different style with me. I'm good. You don't need to worry about me pushing myself. I'm pushing myself. If I'm on it's because I'm about to throw up. Like, you don't need to give me that energy. And if you do, I can't carry on with you. Within the same session, he went back to that gear. And I said to him, by the way, I like this person. I actually like this person. But I said, let's remain friends. I can't train with you anymore. Yeah. But that was me recognizing that there's the leading edge of my growth is something else. And it's usually the thing that makes you the most uncomfortable. The other day, I woke up with a sore throat, and I was like, should I go to the gym or should I go to jiu-jitsu this morning? I train early in the morning, so I was like, should I do it? And there's that voice in my head that says, like, you know, I've got Jocko Willink in my head saying, like,
stop being a pussy.
Just go.
Yeah. Just
go. Ask your, you know, fine, if you don't want to go tomorrow, don't go tomorrow, but today, go. And I'm like, yeah, but that's always what I do. I'm not someone who stays in bed. I'm someone who gets up. So if I'm worrying, if I'm like on the edge, because that's what people ask me when we're doing like values work of, you know, what's your North Star right now and what does change look like for you? What does growth look like for you? There's often that feeling of like, but do I really need to stay in bed right now? Or is this one of those moments where I'm using it as a get out to get out of doing something difficult? Those are hard questions, by the way, because when you're trying to do something new, there's a lot of clumsy recalibrating and you'll swing too far in certain directions. If you're trying to get over your fear of confrontation, there are probably going to be some times where you create confrontation over something you shouldn't. Because you're just like, I don't know right now what's appropriate for me to do and say and what's not. But in that moment, my guiding light is Matthew. Over the last 38 years of being alive,
I know what you're going to say.
has your bigger problem been slacking off and not doing the thing that's hard?
Yeah.
Or has it been giving yourself grace and not making things worse?
Bro, this is so great. And I think it is for every level, there's a devil. And as you become older and you have more experience, that intuition becomes more powerful, and you're able to sort of play with what to 23-year-old Matthew needed to be a relatively one-dimensional piece of advice, which is stop being such a pussy. But after a while you go, I understand where my tolerances are. I understand what the ceiling feels like. I understand what the floor feels like. I understand the difference between backing off because I'm leaving something on the table and backing off because I'm going to get injured in one form or another.